Chronicles of a Gooner. Like and subscribe. Chronicles of a Gooner. Harry Symeou time. Arsenal. Come on, you gunners. Arsenal. Chronicles of a Gooner.
Hey everybody, how are we doing? Welcome back to the Chronicles of a Gooner with me, Harry Symeou. And on this episode, we are looking ahead to Arsenal's Carabao Cup tie with Brighton taking place at Emirates Stadium on Wednesday night. How are we feeling about it? We're going to talk a little bit about what the team might or should look like. I've got to be honest, I found this one really difficult. And we'll take, of course, some of your thoughts and questions from the live chat. We'll also share a prediction as the show goes on, and basically we'll go off on whatever tangents come up along the way on this live episode of the pod. Thank you to everyone who's with us, because we are streaming at a random time, coming up to 7 p.m. on a Tuesday evening. It's not our usual slot. It's not our usual time, but I'm just doing it in anticipation of not being available tomorrow morning, because I've got some stuff on in the morning, which means that I'm not going to be able to get this out early, in which case there's not really that much point in doing it unless I give it some time to breathe, because kickoff, of course, is that evening. So I figured, it'd be best to jump on today and to share with you guys my thoughts on this one. And also, I kind of need your help as well. I kind of need your help as well, because I have been sitting there, no word of a lie, for a good half an hour trying to figure out what I do with the team. And I've picked the team, but I'm not really settled on it. Like, I could be convinced to change it, and actually quite easily. I feel like with this competition, we're in a bit of an awkward spot, because there's people like me who don't remember Arsenal winning this competition. The last time we did it was in 1993. I was 3 years old. I do not remember it. So there's a part of me that thinks we need to go and win this competition from a purely selfish perspective, because I haven't seen Arsenal win this cup. And I want to say, by the end of my Arsenal supporting time, that I've seen us win all of the major trophies. So there's that. There's also the thing of Mikel Arteta winning a trophy and getting over the line. And if he could do that early, and this competition gives you an opportunity to do that, that should get some people off his back. That should ease the pressure a little bit as we then go into the real kind of business end of the season. And hopefully that won't be it. Hopefully we can go and win one of the bigger ones. And I know that, we've got a sort of priority list and an order of priorities. And I agree with most people that this would be at the bottom of my priority list, but it is still a major trophy. It is still an opportunity to bring silverware home. It is still a competition that's there to be won. And the bigger and better our squad gets and is, the less excuse we have for, I'm not going to say throwing competitions, because I don't think we've ever gone into any game with the intention of losing. But you can certainly argue that we've not taken this as seriously as we should have at times. I would point to the fact that Arsenal made the semi-finals last year. That kind of went under the radar, I think, when people were talking about, how Arsenal's season had finished. It was like, oh, well, they got knocked out of the Champions League in the semi-final stage and they fell away in the league. But it was never mentioned that it wasn't really mentioned that we got to the semi-finals of this competition. Now, I'm not saying that getting to the semi-finals of this competition is as big or as kind of noteworthy an achievement as, for example, getting to a Champions League semi-final, but you get the point I'm trying to make here. So I've been sat there thinking, there's an opportunity here, there's a chance here. But when you think about all the injury problems that we ended up suffering at the weekend as well, you just think to yourself, can we still approach this game in the way that we might have had those issues not occurred and had they not surfaced? So I suppose a good place to start today's show is to just have a look at some of the comments and some of the quotes that Mikel Arteta made during his press conference. Now, obviously, he spoke to the media earlier on this afternoon. He was asked about William Saliba's fitness. He said he's out. That means for, of course, this game against Brighton. We're assessing him, but he won't be involved in this match. On Declan Rice, he will be available. On Ricardo Calafiori, he will be available. And that is really good news, the Calafiori news, especially. And I'll tell you why, because Declan Rice takes a knock, has to go off in a game, unless I see a real kind of telltale sign of this being really serious. I don't tend to panic with Declan Rice. He's strong, he's robust, he normally comes through these things. With Ricardo Calafiori, I've always got that fear that anytime he pulls up with any sort of problem, that's going to be him sidelined for a period of time. And I really feel like at the start of this season, we've had an opportunity to have a real good look at Ricardo Calafiori. And I think now you can kind of understand why Arsenal were keen to go out and get him and what he was going to add to the group and to the team. And I've been really, really impressed. On Gabriel Martinelli, looks like he's going to be out. Mikel Arteta said that they need to do some more tests to understand the extent of the injury. But obviously this game is going to come around too early for him. This one worries me a little bit. And this would be a real shame if Gabriel Martinelli was to spend a spell on the sidelines, because it finally feels like we've got our Gabriel Martinelli back. And so to lose him for a period of time, which could happen, is that going to set him back? Is that interrupting his momentum? Is that hitting him just at the point where he was starting to kind of find his form again? So, yeah, that's not great news. On Bukayo Saka, he is going to be okay. That's what Mikel had to say. Look, he said loads of other things in the press conference. There's lots of interesting nuggets and questions and stuff. You can go over to Haters TV. You can watch the press conference back, or you can find the transcript on arsenal.com like I've done here. But I'm not going to run through the entire press conference. I don't think it's necessary. I think if you want to watch it or read the quotes, you can do that. If you've got any comments on any of the questions or quotes or anything like that, please let me know. Let's discuss them. But I'm not going to read through the transcript, basically, is what I'm trying to say. So taking all of that into account, I'm sort of thinking about how heavy we go with the rotation, because there is a chance and there is that possibility that Arsenal just go Carabao Cup. We got a game away to Burnley at the weekend, and then we got a Champions League game in midweek next week, and then we've got another league game away at a very, very good Sunderland side. And also, like, don't take Burnley too lightly as well. Is what I would say. I expect us to beat them. Don't get me wrong, but don't take them too lightly. Given that William Saliba's out, given that Gabriel Martinelli's out, given that Declan Rice picked up a knock, given that Ricardo Calafiori picked up a knock, that Bukayo Saka's not 100%, and that big Gabby as well at the back will not be 100% because he wasn't 100% going into the game at the weekend. He ended up having to play 90 minutes. So taking all of that into consideration, there is an argument that says we should probably rotate more than we were going to. And I was very much of the opinion that Mikel Arteta would kind of half rotate for this game, that he would take this game seriously. I think you have to take it seriously against a very good Brighton side. They are capable of dumping us out if we're not at it. And I thought that Mikel would have left some of those core players in. So I thought that at least one of Gabriel or Saliba would play. I thought that going into the midfield, that one of Rice and Zubimendi would play. I thought that Victor Gyökeres would play. I thought that Bukayo Saka would play. And I still think a lot of those guys will play, but I'm now starting to think, is it the case that we now have to be even more careful? Because particularly in those forward areas, we're in quite a precarious situation when it comes to injuries. Because right now, we're without Havertz, Odegaard, Madueke, Jesus. And we're without Martinelli, according to Mikel Arteta today. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 players that have a heavy influence over your attack, and they're all missing. Can we afford to lose any more? The answer really is no. So what does that do in terms of Mikel Arteta's thinking? How does that change the approach? And how does what happened at the weekend influence that as well? Because if we came out of the weekend's game with a completely clean bill of health, I genuinely do believe that you only see 2, maybe 3 changes. Because there's an opportunity here. Win this game, and we're in the last 8 of a major competition. We're at home. It's in front of our fans. You do it, don't you? If the opportunity is there, you go for it. And I think with the squad the way it is, the excuses that we might have hid behind in the past, where we sort of half-assed this type of fixture, those excuses are gone. Those excuses are just gone. So yeah, let's try and work our way through what the team might or should look like then. Because as I say, I've had a lot of issues trying to figure this out. In fact, I'm not even set on my team at the time of us recording this. So feel free to help me along in the chat box. I'd love to hear from you guys and get your takes and your thoughts. Right. So if we start with the goalkeeping position, I don't feel like David Raya needs long rest periods like other players do. But I'm also quite happy to see Kepa Arrizabalaga play because I think he's at a good level. And I think, as I've said before, he's probably the best second choice goalkeeper that Arsenal have ever had in terms of his pedigree. So I'm going to go with Kepa in goal. And I've got no problem with that. I'm happy with that. Kepa in for David Raya tomorrow. Moving on to the defence, I'll bring Ben White in at right back. I think that makes a lot of sense. I bring Miles Lewis-Skelly in at left back. There he is. And then at centre back, there's a question. Some people would play Piero Hincapié. Some people might use Timber at right back and move Ben White inside. There's options available to Mikel Arteta here, but pre the injuries and pre the problems, I would have said that you have to play one of Gabriel and Saliba. The injury problems have made me rethink that, in that if Gabriel is not 100% and Saliba is out, can we risk him? But, there's a part of me that looks at that Brighton side and thinks they are a big threat. And actually, if we take them lightly, we could find ourselves embarrassed on the night. So do you know what? If he's fit enough, Big Gabby plays at left centre-back for me. And Mosquera plays alongside him at right centre-back. That's the way I'd go. That might be the pairing that we have to use at the weekend as well. And if it is, it's an opportunity for those two guys to play together again as well, which I suppose the more minutes they get together, the more that bond develops and that relationship improves, the better it is for Arsenal. I know what people are saying in the chat. There's Guillermo, he says, Gabby needs to rest. And I completely agree with you. And I completely acknowledge that what I am saying is risky. But at the same time, is it not risky throwing Piero Hincapié in, who we basically know nothing about, who we've seen so little of since he's arrived at Arsenal? I don't know. I don't know. I think if I were Mikel Arteta, I'd be reluctant to throw Hincapié in at centre-back, given how little he's played. He came on at the weekend. He looked really enthusiastic. He looked really excited. He was buzzing around. He was trying to make an impact on the game. I felt you could see him when he was warming up, like he was like a hyper kid, like that couldn't wait to get sort of unleashed into the playground. That's how he kind of looked, looking from afar. But I don't think I would do it. I don't think I would do it. And if you kind of want to make the counter argument, you could say this geezer is a top defender. He's been an invincible with Bayer Leverkusen. We paid 50 million quid to get him in through the door, and Harry doesn't trust him to play in the Carabao Cup. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right to say that what I am saying lacks logic. Is probably a little bit harsh on the guy, but I really, really do think that if we are not at it tomorrow, we find ourselves dumped out of the cup. And it's not because I massively care about the Carabao Cup, but if I felt like coming away from Emirates Stadium tomorrow, we didn't give it our best, it would feel like an opportunity missed. And that positive feel-good factor that is around Arsenal right now, I'm not saying it completely evaporates or disappears, but it's impacted, isn't it, by a cup exit at home. So I'm going with that back line. I'm going with Kepa in goal. I'm going with White at right back, Mosquera and Gabriel as the two centre halves, and then Lewis-Skelly at left back. Right, moving on to the midfield. I've been sort of going back and forth in my mind. And again, it's like what I was saying about the centre halves, where I wanted one of the main men to play. I'm feeling a bit like that with the midfield as well. Rice or Zubimendi. I think one of them has to play. And I suppose, given that he came off the other day with a knock, I suppose it makes more sense to play Zubimendi because Rice came off, as I mentioned. But at the same time, Zubimendi played the whole game the other day and had a bit of a breather in a recent game. Declan Rice coming off early, if he's fully recovered from whatever that knock or issue was, and he's got a few extra minutes left in the tank because he didn't play the entire game, that might lead to the manager going that way. But I think this is linked to the rest of my midfield selection, because I think there are certain midfield combinations that don't work. And so I'm going to pick Zubimendi of the two. So Martin Zubimendi starts in my midfield. Norgard plays. And the third midfielder for me is a man who I think has been very, very unlucky of late not to play more. And that is Ethan Nwaneri. So that's my midfield. Now, the shape can vary. Norgard can sit at the base. Zubimendi can sit at the base. Norgard can play a kind of Rice-type role. Norgard can sit alongside Zubimendi, and Nwaneri can go and play the number 10 role. Whatever. Like, there's rotations that we can utilize within that three that I'll be happy to see. But that's my midfield three: Norgard, Zubimendi, and Nwaneri. At centre-forward, I'm not going with Victor Gyökeres. I feel like we're in serious danger of running this guy into the ground, because he's had to up his intensity level. He's had to come to a new league where the physical demands are just so much higher, and we've got no flexibility with regards to him at the moment in terms of giving him a breather. And so I'm not playing Victor Gyökeres. I'm playing Mikel Merino up front. That would be unpopular with some, but I'm playing Mikel Merino up front. I'm playing Saka on the right, and I'm playing Eze from the left. That's my team for tomorrow. Max Dowman would be on the bench for me. I know a lot of people are going to bring up Max Dowman, but I don't think we can afford to sort of go too young or too weak. It's not to say that Max Dowman's weak, but I think if you start disrupting a load of relationships and you start, messing around too much, you can find yourselves out on your asses and embarrassed come the end of the night. And I don't want to see that. So that's the team I've gone with. So Kepa, Arrizabalaga in goal. White, Mosquera, Gabriel, and Lewis Skelly across the back. Zubimendi, Norgard, and Nwaneri are my midfield. On the right, I'm going with Bukayo Saka. On the left, I'm going with Eberechi Eze. And up front, I'm going with Mikel Merino. That is how I would start the game tomorrow against Brighton. Let me know your thoughts in the chat. I know there'll be a lot of you that disagree with me, and that is absolutely fine. But, we can sit and we can talk about Brighton and we can analyze Brighton. And it's a League Cup game, so I'm not going to go into the same depth that I would around a Premier League game. But we know that they're a quite high intensity team. They're a front-footed team, got plenty of attacking threat, very comfortable in possession, and probably more comfortable than most when you go to press them. And that will allow them to play through us or over the top of us at points. And I know we're generally very, very good at that, pressing and making sure that we don't get exposed in those ways. But you can't sleep on them. You can't sleep on them. And as I keep saying, this trophy represents a big opportunity for Arsenal. A big opportunity because, as I say, you win tomorrow and you're in the last 8. And then a couple of the big boys draw each other. And before you know it, you could be in the semi-finals and you could be lifting silverware very, very early on in the season. And for a team that keeps getting criticised for its inability to get over the line early and before the real business end of the season, and use this trophy as a bit of a springboard would be massive. Plus, the great Arsene Wenger didn't win this cup. I'm not comparing Mikel Arteta to Arsene Wenger before people start, but my point is that we ain't won this competition in a long, long time, and we are due one. So let's go out there, let's get the silverware, let's win it, let's make everyone happy, let's put smiles on people's faces, and let's use it as a springboard to hopefully go on between the end of this competition and the end of the season. Let's use it as a springboard to hopefully go on and be incredibly successful in some of the bigger ones. People keep saying it's a small cup. Corey says it's a small cup, something for the minnows. There's been a lot of great teams in the past, Corey, that have used this competition as exactly what I've described, a springboard onto bigger and better successes. So I'm not going to write it off, and I'm not going to disregard it. I think the squad that we have means we almost have a responsibility to go out there and try and fight on multiple fronts, on as many fronts as possible. As I said at the beginning, my only thing is that the issues that we suffered at the weekend, how have they affected the plans? Because as I say, I think that there's a lot of players that would have continued in the team. I think that, for example, one of Gabriel Saliba plays, one of Rice Zubimendi plays. I think Saka plays. I think there's certain players that are just so important to the side. And I've talked about it a lot in the past. There is such thing as over-rotating, and the disruption that causes can set you back. So I think we've got to be careful with that. And obviously it's important that we try and find the balance. But for me, that's the team to go with. In terms of a prediction, I think we're going to edge it. I think we're going to beat Brighton by 1-0, and we're going to edge it, and we're going to book our place in the last 8. And yeah, we can look forward to the draw, which will be coming up afterwards. And hopefully we get a favourable one and a fairly sort of straightforward route right to the latter stages of this competition. But yeah, that's my team. Let me know your thoughts. My prediction is a good old 1-0 to the Arsenal. Some people will tell you that this game doesn't matter. Some people will tell you that this competition doesn't matter. It doesn't matter as much as the Premier League or the Champions League or even the FA Cup, but it does matter. And for me, there's an opportunity there, and I just want to see us go and grab it with both hands. I talked about it after the Olympiacos game. I said that there will be games in the season that we might be able to get through at 70%. There's a chance that this is one of those games. And that's why I don't think you have to play your absolute best 11, but you still have to pick an 11 that's going to give you a 70% type performance. And I think people like Norgard can be relied on, but will require the superior quality of Martin Zubimendi. I think people like Ethan Nwaneri have a point to prove, and having him in those central areas, and if he can get in and around Marino, if he's to play up front as I've chosen, and he can lay the ball off and tee Nwaneri up and he can get shots off from the edge of the box, I think that works great. Eze scores at the weekend. Let's see him go out there and build on that, coming from the left-hand side, where I think actually he might be even better because he'll be coming in with the ball at his feet already, rather than looking to try and receive it in really tight spaces while the opposition are constantly trying to cut out those passing lanes. The White and Saka combination down the right-hand side, tried and tested. Gabriel and Mosquera at the back. I'd be happy with that in any Premier League game, let alone this game. Got trust in Kepa. Lewis Skelly just slots in really, really nicely. But I probably would have gone a bit stronger if we didn't end up with the problems that we did after the weekend's game. So that has skewed my thinking a little bit. And I think it's impossible for it not to have had some influence on Mikel Arteta. Let me know your teams. Let me know your predictions. And of course, we'll bring you some reaction on the audio feed from Emirates Stadium after that game. So really, really looking forward to that. And then, of course, we'll be back on Thursday morning with a main pod where we'll look back on the game in great detail. There's no pod, no live stream on Wednesday morning. There's no live stream due to other commitments, but that's why I thought I'd jump on this Tuesday night, get this recorded and get this out to you guys for your consumption. So thank you so much for your continued support. Remember, leave a like on the video if you haven't done so already. Subscribe to the channel if you are new. If you're listening to us on Apple or Spotify, leave us a review, get involved. And you can check us out on Patreon and support us on Patreon if you like. The link is in the description below. Thank you all so much, and I'll see you all on the next one. Until then, take care of yourselves and have a wonderful evening. Goodbye.
Chronicles of a Gooner. Like and subscribe. Chronicles of a Gooner. Harry Symeou time. Arsenal. Come on, you Gunners. Arsenal. Chronicles of a Gooner.